Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of Spencer Talks NASCAR. I'm your host, Spencer Urquhart here. We're going to break down Richmond this week, y'all. Toyota Owners 400 Richmond Spring Race. Can't wait to talk about it. Hadn't been a super eventful event the past few years, but it's one that's a staple on the Cup Series schedule. Richmond, a race that's usually fairly chalky, but past couple races have seen some different winners, including Chris Buescher last year. Alex Bowman won. That was surprising. And Chris Buescher last year. I think it was Denny Hamlin in 2022. So a few different winners mixed in. A lot of times, though, the chalk favorites step up here. Denny Hamlin's obviously won here a bunch. Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Larson. We're going to talk about who are the drivers to beat in this week's Richmond race, as well as some underdogs to keep an eye on. The top storylines for this week. Kyle Busch used to be the king of Richmond. Will he be motivated and secure a strong run? He's been having a lot of adversity lately. Had the run-in with Christopher Bell at Circuit of the Americas. Very interesting stuff there. C. Bell looked very scared of his former mentor, Kyle Busch, confronting him after the COTA race. The contact looked incidental, kind of 50-50 to who was at fault, but Kyle didn't see it that way. He was ready to lay down the law with little C. Bell, who, man, he looked like a deer in the headlights. So we'll see if KV can carry that energy over into this week. Hopefully it'll be positive energy. Hopefully he doesn't get himself in more trouble. Joey Logano, another driver we're going to talk about. Is it time for Joey Logano to panic? Ford as a whole not been too good outside of RFK Racing, Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing, Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski. Are they Ford's best hope this week to get their ship turned around? And, of course, Joe Gibbs Racing. I mean, what can we say? Joe Gibbs Racing, Hendrick Motorsports too, but Joe Gibbs Racing, especially at short tracks, has been ridiculously tough to beat. We're going to talk about if anyone can take down JGR this week, as well as our best bets, y'all. We've got our best bets this week. Last week, kind of a dud week, not going to lie. Didn't really hit on much, but got Ty Gibbs right to finish top three. Ty Gibbs has been killing it lately. We'll talk about him when we talk JGR. But yeah, COTA, though, not going to say much about COTA, Circuit of the Americas. I unfortunately missed most of the race. Saw the early part. It was kind of and then I heard the ending wasn't too eventful. William Byron, shout out Willie B. He pulled away there at the end on that thing. My pick to win, Kyle Larson, got spun out by Christopher Bell, who just seemed to have it in for anyone named Kyle in that race. Bumped into Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch. But anyway, yeah, William Byron just was the class of the field, killed it. A little disappointed from the newer entries in there. I thought Shane Van Gisbergen would make more noise. Kobayashi, neither of them really did a whole lot. AJ Allmendinger was impressive. He was the only part-timer that seemed to make much impact. But anyway, yeah, COTA, kind of an eventful race now. The rumors are that COTA won't return to next year's schedule. I'm kind of indifferent about that. I think it's a very unique course, and going there just once a year early in the year, I don't really have anything against it, but it's just, yeah, the NASCAR cars just aren't really meant to race there. I mean, that track was designed for F1 cars, which are very much the opposite. They are very sleek, aerodynamically sound. NASCAR cars are more, just not as sporty. They're more designed to beat and bang on ovals. And you can do some road courses. I mean, like Watkins Glen is a good one, but these experimental type advanced road courses and then street courses, going back to Chicago this year for the Chicago street race, but we'll see how that goes. Those races don't tend to be that exciting. At least Shane Van Gisbergen won the Chicago street race last year to make that somewhat interesting. But anyway, enough about the schedule. Let's get into this week and discuss Richmond. And so they call it the Toyota Owners 400. It has been very Toyota dominated, even though a Toyota hadn't won the Richmond race, I don't think, since Denny Hamlin in the 2022 spring race. I believe the last three winners were either Chevys or Ford. They had Chris Buescher last year, Kyle Larson. But so far this year, Joe Gibbs Racing has dominated at short track. So to me, the biggest question heading into this race is, can anyone stop JGR at these short tracks? Because so far they have dominated Phoenix, 1 mile track, Christopher Bell won easily. And even if he wouldn't have, I mean, there are other guys who are running really well. Ty Gibbs, Martin Truex were also up front. Denny Hamlin, I believe, led laps there. That track was dominated by Joe Gibbs racing cars. Same with Bristol. We had the Bristol tire fiasco. That was wild. But guess who were the two that were there at the end that survived that war of attrition? Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr. And guess who led the most laps? Ty Gibbs. I mean, these Toyota guys, more specifically Joe Gibbs Racing, have absolutely dominated to start this season, especially at short tracks, because I mean, William Byron, he's our only two-time winner this year, but both of his wins came at non-short tracks or intermediates. He won the Daytona 500 and then won at COTA last week. So haven't really had many intermediates yet. Las Vegas, I believe, was the only intermediate, because Atlanta is not really a true intermediate anymore. That's more lumped in with Daytona and Talladega now as a drafting track. So the first two races were drafting tracks. Then the intermediate, Las Vegas, which Kyle Larson dominated. Then Phoenix and Bristol. Phoenix is kind of a hybrid, but I consider it to be more of a short track the way it races. So if you consider Phoenix a short track, and of course Bristol, JGR just freaking dominated both of those. And then the road course at COTA, William Byron did his thing there. So Hendrick is probably still the team to beat it. The mile and a half intermediates. Can't wait to see more of those races. I love how the mile and a half race with this next gen car. They were pretty bad with the car before the next gen. They were just, mile and a half sucked. They were so boring. Short tracks were fun with the old car, but intermediates, not so much. But short tracks now are pretty boring for the most part. Well, it had been until Bristol. Bristol was quite the show with all the tire wear. We'll see how Richmond goes. Richmond, a track that traditionally is hard. That's a track that's hard on tires traditionally. So if it's anything like Bristol, this could be a weird, wacky race, and that could maybe open the door for someone other than JGR. But let's be real, Hamlin and Truex, veteran drivers, they mastered the art of saving the tires, as well as Brad Keselowski and some other veteran guys. I mean, Alex Bowman, these older, more experienced Cup drivers tended to do better at that track. I mean, with the circumstances, Ty Gibbs ran a good race, led the most laps, but being one of the younger guys, he probably used his stuff up a little too soon where he fell off. I mean, hell, Kyle Busch, I think he's now the most experienced Cup driver in the field. He used his stuff up too early at Bristol. I mean, Kyle Busch was running really well at Bristol, but had the tire issues and just could never get back in. The pit crew messed him up in the second half of the race. He made up all the ground, got back up near the top 10, and then lost it all again. So hopefully Kyle's pit crew doesn't screw him again. I don't think they messed him up at COTA. He ended up recovering, getting the top 10 after the Christopher Bell contact. So at least Kyle Busch, despite his frustrations with C-Bell, at least he still got a much-needed top 10 last week, which, by the way, we're going to hold off on power rankings this week. We're going to bring them back here soon, probably not this week or the week after, unless something drastic changes, because there's just not enough change usually from week to week to worry about doing them each week. We'll bring them back, though, at some point, rank the top 10 guys in the Cup Series, which I'm glad I kept Kyle Busch in the top 10 of last week, because Brad Keselowski was the guy trending up, but then he had an awful showing at COTA. But this is a track, though, that Keselowski and Kyle Busch thrive at, Richmond, a track that, like I said, the chalk favorites tend to do well. And so Joe Gibbs Racing, odds-on favorites. As a result, they've been running very well. There are 4 drivers, all among the betting favorites this week at Richmond. So we'll see. I mean, I'm not betting against them. I'll just say that. I mean, yeah, it's obviously possible for someone to stop them, but I'm not betting against them. I don't see that trend ending this week. I hate to say that because, I mean, I'm a Kyle Busch fan. I'd love to see someone other than Joe Gibbs Racing do well. When I see him doing well, I'm like, damn, what if he'd have stayed? But still think he was probably best for him to move on, because he seemed to be, looking back on it, I was going back through the finishes and stuff. He had become like the 4th banana at Joe Gibbs Racing, the 4th best. I mean, C-Bell is trending up. Denny Hamlin and Truex were running really well. It seemed like Kyle Busch wasn't quite gelling with the new setup they had over there, to where I still think the change of scenery was probably for the best for him, even though it's clear JGR cars are the fastest in the garage right now, especially at short tracks. But we'll see. I mean, Kyle Larson obviously comes to mind as someone that could step up. Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski, like I mentioned. Chris Buescher won here at Richmond before. He could be a threat. There's a lot of guys that could still do it. That's why I love NASCAR, because it's not like typical stick and ball sports where it's just you versus one opponent. I mean, you've got 35 other opponents. I mean, most of them aren't capable of winning, but at least with this next gen car now, at least 10 to 15 of them could win any given week. Richmond probably more like 5 to 10, but still, the field is more wide open than it's been in a long time. So there are definitely some names that could step up. Team Penske hadn't really been that great to start the year. Ryan Blaney has been solid, but outside of him, his teammates have struggled, especially Joey Logano. We're going to get to Logano in a minute, but we'll see if anyone can do it. I'm not going to predict it. I think JGR has a stranglehold over the field this week. Toyota Owners 400. I see the Toyotas owning this field this week. As much as I don't want to admit that, that's just how I see it. Tyler Reddick, another name to watch. He traditionally hasn't run super well at Richmond, though, so I'm not going to expect 23-11 to make a whole lot of noise. But you never know. They've got good cars over there. And then the rumors of Denny Hamlin potentially finishing his career out with 23-11 at some point. We'll see how all that shakes out. But for now, he's locked in with JGR. JGR's four-car lineup, let's be real, it's the best in the garage right now. Hendricks is strong, but it's more top heavy with Larson and Byron carrying the weight. Bowman and Elliott. Bowman's run well lately. I got to say, 2 top 5s in a row. Alex Bowman stepping up. Chase Elliott, though, is yet to really step up this season. I thought Coda would be his race. He was running well most of the race, but then had the course penalty. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Again, I didn't get to see enough of the race to see how bad that was. But from what I heard, a lot of people were complaining about those course penalties, and I can see why. You don't want to have to see that. I mean, you just want to see guys compete and go fast. I don't have to worry about, is he going to get penalized, this and that. I don't know. Coda, whatever. I'm not worried about Coda. It's just a one-off event anyway. But yeah, as far as the lineup, though, JGR, I think, is the team to beat, obviously, overall. And for sure this week, we'll see, though. Hendrick Motorsport is going to be a threat for sure. As far as some sleeper teams to watch out for, Stewart-Haas Racing could be sneaky this week. I don't think to win, but I think Josh Berry and Chase Briscoe could both be some guys that could beat and bang, somewhat near the leaders, top 5 to top 10. Can maybe see them. Got one of them in my best bets to finish top 10. And Ryan Preece, a pretty good short track racer as well. I feel like Stewart-Haas Racing, their best hope for good results is at the short track. So we'll see if they can take advantage of that this week. But one more thing about JGR before we move on. Which JGR driver is the one to beat? Because, I mean, all 4 are doing so well right now. Martin Truex Jr. and Ty Gibbs don't have wins on the season, but they're 1 and 2 in the regular season point standings right now. They've been the most consistent, whereas Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell haven't been quite as consistent, but they both have a win on the season. Bell, of course, won at Phoenix, and Hamlin won at Bristol. So trying to figure out which is the one to beat, it's tough to say. Right now, Hamlin and Seabell are the co-favorites to win the Richmond race, with Truex and Ty Gibbs not far behind. The only drivers there. Those 4 are the only guys with odds below 10 to 1. So it's tough to say. I mean, to me, the value out of the 4 to me is Truex. Like, I kind of think Truex is the guy to beat because he's won here 3 times since 2019. Plus, he's been so consistent. I mean, regular season points leader. I think this could be the week he breaks through and gets that first win of the year, and then he wouldn't even have to worry about the playoffs at that point. He could then prove my preseason prediction wrong of him missing the playoffs, because I thought they would come out a little lagging this year, but no JGR car has been lagging. To start this season, all 4 have been very much on point. So to me, either Hamlin or Truex are the guys to beat, because Denny Hamlin, I mean, he won at Bristol. That was a statement win. Won the Clash. It's just short, so he hadn't been quite as consistent as the teammates, but he's still elite to where I think it's either Hamlin or Truex. Seabell, he's been really good, but I'm surprised that he's got, lower odds or better odds than Martin Truex to win this week. Because, I mean, Seabell, he's been really good, but I don't know. I feel like he's probably been the fourth best JGR car this year. I know that seems crazy to think. I mean, he's been really good, but he has been a little bit behind the others, I'd say, but not by much. I mean, all four are elite. So I'm sure y'all getting sick of me talking up JGR, but I mean, the numbers are the numbers. I mean, they have been super impressive to start this year, but to me, it's either Hamlin or Truex. I guess I'd say Hamlin, the one to beat, but Truex is right there. It's splitting hairs. Let's move on, y'all. Let's talk about some guys that could dethrone JGR, because I really hope Joe Gibbs Racing goes down this week. I'm sick of having to talk about them being so good at short tracks. So Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski are guys that could make some noise here. And question is, are they Ford's biggest threats to win? I would say yeah for this week. You know, normally you think Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano are Ford's best bets, but let's be real, Logano stunk this year, and Blaney's not very good at Richmond. The numbers don't show Blaney being a real contender here. Granted, Blaney is someone that's really upped his game in recent years, especially after last year's championship, to where he could definitely rise up and be a threat potentially. But if we're going off the data, who are the most proven guys here? I'd say these RFK drivers. I mean, especially after last season, Buescher won here. Keselowski led laps. He's a two-time winner here in the past. Well, granted, that was with Penske, but still, he's someone that I think is a threat to win. I know he's on that winless streak that's now over 100 races, but he's going to break that thing at some point. He is going to win a few races as an owner driver with RFK. There's no way he's going to go the rest of his career and not win a race. Brad Keselowski's got too much speed right now to not win. He's going to break through at some point, and it could very well be this week. Him and Chris Buescher. I think the odds makers have caught on. I didn't find any of them to be betting values this week because I feel like the odds makers know how much of a threat they are, and I think they've got the best odds among Ford drivers. Yeah, they've both got a lot better odds than Ryan Blaney, even though Ryan Blaney on the season has been the top Ford driver. But these bookmakers know you got to look beyond just this season's results. You got to look at the previous results at the specific track, and Richmond has a lot of data to go off of. So Buescher and Keselowski, I'd say definitely Ford's top drivers this week, and two of the guys that will be tough to beat. And now moving on to Joey Logano. Is it time for Joey Logano to panic? And I'm not going to say it's time yet, but I give him at least another month. Let's see how he does the month of April. And I think this is a good week for him to bounce back because he traditionally runs really well at Richmond. He's one of the better drivers here, statistically speaking, throughout his career. Has 2 wins. Normally does really good. I believe that year he had that down year. I think it was 2016, the year after the Matt Kenseth saga. He still won a race at Richmond. Granted, it became encumbered. That was the whole encumbered win scandal. That was kind of odd. And I think he missed the playoffs because of that, because he didn't win another race the rest of the year. And with his Richmond win from that year encumbered, he missed the 16-man playoff. So, yeah, Logano has had some ups and downs throughout his career. The downs have not been pretty. He is going through some major slumps, and he's going through one of the biggest slumps of his career right now. It's like he's the kind of driver when he's on top, when he's riding high, he is tough to beat. But when he's not riding high, he tends to really struggle, even more so than Kyle Busch, because Kyle Busch has definitely had some peaks and valleys throughout his career. But Logano's valleys have been really brutal. So we'll see if he can snap out of this. I'm not panicking yet. I still think he makes the playoffs. I think they find the speed and reach victory lane. I'm not panicking about Team Penske. They've won the past 2 Cup Series titles. I think at least Logano figures it out. Austin Cindric, that's a whole nother story. I have no idea if he's going to figure it out. His third year ain't really showing much growth. But Logano, I think he'll bounce back. And my last topic here before we move on to best bets. Will a motivated Kyle Busch be the top Chevrolet this week? Because you already know Kyle Busch is heading into this race motivated. Richmond, one of his better tracks. He's Mr. Richmond, y'all. 6 career wins at this place. He owns this place traditionally, but past few years hasn't been quite as dominant. Hadn't won a race here in a little bit, but he definitely knows how to do so, having won there 6 times. And he showed good speed at Bristol, before the tires got him in the pit crew. I mean, he had a really good car at Bristol. I mean, Kyle Busch this year has been pretty solid. The only race where they completely whiffed on the setup was Phoenix. I mean, watching him all year, Phoenix, you could just tell he had no hope because first 2 weeks he ran really good at the drafting tracks. Then at Las Vegas, he had a top 5 going before the pit crew screwed him. And then Phoenix, he was off. Bristol for the tires, he was top 3. And then Coda before the Seabell incident, he was working his way up, still ended up with a top 10. So I know a lot of people are saying Kyle Busch is down, RCR sucks. They're just wanting to write him off and say he's got no chance. But if you really break it down, he hadn't been trash this year. I mean, his team has been kind of trash, especially the pit crew, but he himself has been just fine. If anything, he's had more speed this year than he did with JGR post-COVID. I feel like post-COVID, Kyle Busch with JGR, he just was not there speed-wise. I don't know what happened, if it was just the new practice rules. I definitely think that had something to do with it, and they just weren't able to adjust good, whereas Denny Hamlin and Truex, they adjusted just fine, but Kyle Busch really struggled with that. But then goes ever since the RCR move. I mean, last year he had good speed, especially the first half of the year. Second half fell off. This year he's been pretty solid. Just had a lot of bad luck with stuff he can't control. Some of the pit road speed is his fault, but the pit crew errors, he can't control that, and the tires somewhat his fault. But I mean, that was early in the race. I don't think most drivers knew the tires were going to wear like that. I mean, he did a good job after that until the pit crew messed him up. But I think, though, this week, a motivated Kyle Busch could very well be the top Chevrolet because Kyle Larson is probably the best bet to be the top Chevrolet. But I think a motivated Kyle Busch, he's going to be looking to make a statement, and he's pissed off with JGR, his former team, especially after the Seabell incident. Remember, a few weeks ago, I was saying, could he end up back at JGR? I guarantee you that's the last thing on his mind right now. He wants to prove that he can win without JGR. I don't see that. I think he stays at RCR at least another season or two. Things would have to really go south for him to want to go back to JGR because he's the kind of competitor. He wants to prove that he doesn't need JGR. He wants to prove that he can win with RCR, an organization that's still solid, but not quite on the elite level. But I mean, look at Martin Truex Jr. with Furniture Row Racing. It is possible to be a smaller operation and be successful. So we'll see if the motivated Kyle Busch can come through this week. I think it's very possible. He will be among my best bets for this week, being how dominant he's been at Richmond over the years. And I think the bookmakers are kind of sleeping on him this week. They had been bumping him up the past few weeks. He was a guy to public team to be betting on a lot. And here we are, the best bet. We've got BetMGM odds up this week because let's be real, they've been having way better odds than DraftKings lately. So we're going to go through the odds here real quick. We'll discuss the winner, who's got the odds. I mean, we'll just briefly run down the field, and then I'll go over my best bets. Hamlin, Seabell, Truex, Ty Gibbs, all favored. Not surprised. See the JGR guys up there. Kyle Larson, Chris Buescher, William Byron, Brad Keselowski. We talked about all them. Tyler Reddick. Then Kyle Busch there at 18-1. Could offer some value there. Then Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott and Ross Chastain and Joey Logano all in a big group there at 22-1. Now to the mid-pack guys, then we get to our longer shots. Bubba Wallace and Alex Bowman at 40-1. Josh Berry, 66-1. Then Chase Briscoe. He talked about how they could be potential sleepers there with Stuart Haas. Ryan Preece, Eric Jones in the mix there as longer shots that are long, but not ridiculously long. Noah Gragson, Daniel Suarez, Michael McDowell. McDowell's a guy that's run top 10 at Richmond recently. Could maybe be a player to run up front. Carson Hocevar, a rookie. He's in there. John Hunter Nemechek. And then we get to these. Yeah, JHN's run pretty good this year, him and Hocevar. But then we get to the super long shots now because this is the kind of track you got to be able to keep pace because if you're not fast, you're going to probably get lapped early, and good luck at that point. These are the guys that are going to really have to prove the doubters wrong because according to the odds, they have virtually no chance. And that's Austin Dillon, Austin Cindric, Corey LaJoie, Todd Gilliland. I thought LaJoie might have a little better odds, but he hadn't been doing so hot this year. Todd Gilliland. Justin Haley is someone, he got penalized last week, but Justin Haley, if it wasn't for that, he'd had a really good run last week. It's a shame that there was something off with the car and it failed inspection because, man, Justin Haley and Rick Ware Racing Equipment has been pretty dang impressive to start this season. And then Ricky Stenhouse there, and then all the super long shot. Zane Smith, the rookie, Harrison Burton, Daniel Hemrick, Ty Dillon. He's driving at number 16 this week for Colleague Racing, and Kaz Grala, the ultra long shot there at 2,000 to 1. So I think that's a little bit of a stretch. To me, it should be more like 2 million on it. You could run this race 50 million times. I don't see a scenario where Kaz Grala is going to win. No offense, Kaz. He's doing the best he can in rough equipment. So he's got the Haley's definitely got the best of the Rick Ware equipment. He's their full-time guy. He's the guy they're invested in. So let's go over our best bets here before we sign off. Martin Truex Jr. to win, y'all, plus 650. I mean, I feel like he's right up there with Seabell and Hamlin, but you're getting more value with Truex to win there at plus 650. I just feel like that's a good price for someone that I see is leading a lot of laps, and I think he breaks through this week. I think this is the week he gets it done. Richmond, one of his better tracks. As he's gotten older, he's gotten way better at short tracks, especially since he's going to JGR, and I think in that powerful equipment, being that he's also really good at managing his tires. This race probably be another one of those tire races. Probably not as extreme as Bristol, but could be somewhat of an issue to where I think a veteran like Truex comes up and wins it. Ty Gibbs kind of tempting at 9 to 1, but I mean, he's been running so well lately. I think this is a week he might come back to earth slightly, but it could be worth playing, but I don't know. I'm going to hold off on picking Ty Gibbs to win. I think it's coming soon, but I think this week one of the veterans is going to win it. So I'll go with Truex. And then Denny Hamlin, top 3, plus 135, very chalky top 3 play, but I think he's a safe bet to run up front this week. I know he's been kind of all or nothing this year, but I think even in the races he hadn't won, he ran really good at Phoenix and didn't win. He's able to still run up front consistently. So I think top 3, a pretty good value play with Denny Hamlin, because the plus 425 to win, not much value there, but the plus 135 top 3, I just didn't really find many top 3 plays that I like this week. Ty Gibbs plus 275. Again, Ty Gibbs number is still tempting, being that he's run so well lately, but that's the thing. He's run so well lately to where I'm a little scared to play him this week. I feel like the value's been kind of sucked out of the Ty Gibbs numbers, but before he was more a little further down on the odds chart, and I felt like it was better value, where now it's, I don't know. I'm not messing with it. I'll go with Ham on the chalk play for top 3. My top 5 play, have to scroll down the chart a little bit to find it. Kyle Busch, because look at Kyle Busch, y'all, plus 325 to finish top 5. That number makes no sense to me. Because to win, I mean, look, you got Blaney and Elliott that have better odds to finish top 5, yet they have worse odds to win than Kyle Busch. But to me, Kyle Busch, I mean, I hope he wins, but I'm not picking him to win. I do think a top 5 is very realistic, though, because he's going to be super motivated and want to beat those JGR guys. I think he'll be able to crack the top 5. It wouldn't surprise me if he's the only non-JGR car to get in the top 5. Because I think he's going to be super motivated to challenge him, and I think he'll come out with a strong race plan. I think he'll be disciplined with the tires. As long as the pit crew doesn't screw him up, I think he's a good play. Plus 600 to finish top 3. Kind of tempting, but to me, you get a little better value with him to finish top 5 at plus 325. And then Alex Bowman, my top 10 play at plus 165. I don't understand why the books keep sleeping on Bowman. If you've been betting Bowman the past few weeks, you've been making money. And I'm going to jump on the train this week. I might be a week late, but I think he's still going to run well. I'm not going to go top 5. It's tempting, but I'm not going to do it. Even though he's run top 5 the past 2 weeks. I still think top 10 is very doable, though. He's won at Richmond before. He usually runs good here. Got a top 10 in last year's spring race. So I'll bank on him running well again. To me, you're getting value at plus 165. Not quite 2 to 1, but, still plus odds. So I think he's a guy that is definitely capable of it. So you're getting value. I think he's definitely one of the 10 threats to win. Most of the other 10 are all, in the minus here. But I think he's probably more of a threat than Blaney or Elliott, because you get to 10, you got the 4 JGR and 5 Larson, 6 Byron, 7 Keselowski, 8 Buescher. And then, then maybe 9 Reddick, 10 Busch. And then after them, it's Bowman. And I could see Bowman being just as good or better than Reddick. So I think there's value considering all these others. You got to pay juice as far as their top 10 price. And I got a few alternate plays for y'all before we sign off. If you want to flip flop the Hamlin Truex thing, that could be smart as like a hedge. I don't really have any other picks to win that I feel good about. So if you want to change it up a little bit, you could just take Hamlin to win. You can get him at 5-1 at DraftKings. That's one price that DraftKings has better than here at MGM. So you can still get Hamlin at 5-1 to win at DraftKings. Truex plus 175 to finish top 3. Then Joey Logano to finish top 5. I think there's some value with him at plus 350. It's hard to feel good about Logano. He has not been too good this year. Definitely wouldn't put much on this, but I mean, it could be worth a play because I think Logano bounces back, and it could be as soon as this week. So as I say, buy low, sell high. Logano, a very good buy low candidate right now. 3.5-1 to finish top 5. That's value for a guy that usually always runs good here at Richmond. I know he struggled lately, but I'll bank on his history, his strong history here. And then Josh Berry to finish top 10. I was able to find this number, this plus 320 over at FanDuel, because Josh Berry here at MGM plus 190, not much value there to finish top 10, but plus 320? Hell yeah. He finished runner-up here last year in the spring race, filling in for Chase Elliott, plus has a really good track record here while driving in the Xfinity Series with Junior Motorsports. He's a short track guy. He ran well at Bristol. With the tire fiasco, he almost got a top 10, led 25 laps. That was his forte, is running up front of these short tracks that you're going to have to be smart, manage your equipment. So I think Josh Berry is a smart play to do well again this week. I don't know if top 5 is realistic, but top 10, very realistic, I'd say. So plus 320, give that to me all day for the short track specialist there, Josh Berry. All right, y'all, that's going to do it for the best bet segment, and I think that's going to do it for this week's episode. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. We'll probably just stick to the weekly routine for the foreseeable future. Going to try to get something going as far as like a tease last week about the top prospects in NASCAR. Hopefully in the next month or two, we'll get that off the ground. So, yeah, we've got a lot in the works here. I'm going to keep it rolling for y'all here on Spencer Talks NASCAR. We'll be back next week. Enjoy the Richmond race. Let's go, Kyle Busch. I hope he can get it done. But for all y'all JGR fans out there, y'all are in good shape. So anyway, I'll be rooting for Kyle. Drop comments below. Who are you rooting for? Let me know if you've made it this far. Thank you very much. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. So appreciate y'all. We'll catch y'all later.